Hello and welcome to another episode of Can't Stop the Growth. I'm your host Chad Peterman, and today we're going to take a look at some audio from a future leaders meeting we had here at our company, Peterman Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing, where we talk about the power of imagination, belief in ourselves, and creating positive self-image. To me, this is one of the most important pieces when it comes to achieving our goals. So without further ado, let's take a look at the audio.
The topic that I want to cover first is our imagination. So I think oftentimes when people think of imagination, it's, kind of associated with an artist or, a child or someone who has to be creative. And really the truth is that our imagination is far more powerful in everyone's life than I think we give it credit for. Our imagination is what creates our belief system, and our belief system is ultimately what drives our behavior. And so while they're all connected, the imagination is one of those things where you could probably think of examples of a certain situation, and it's often associated with perspective. And that's probably the better word for it as opposed to imagination. But what's your perspective on a particular situation? So, if there's a situation arises, one person may view it as, well, that's a good thing. Another may view that as that's a bad thing. I often think of, our business is a perfect example of this. If you think about it, that air conditioner goes out in the middle of the night. The image that we've constructed for ourselves is that that's a good thing because we can help. Whereas that for the homeowner, that's a bad thing because that's another problem they got to deal with. They may have a full day. They got to take the kids to school. All of that stuff bubbles up for that customer. And so when we're thinking about success and achieving goals, oftentimes it's not about how hard can we work? That famous willpower. He's a really hard worker. I don't know where he finds the drive to continue to do that. Or, so-and-so does a really great job. I just can't bring myself to do that. And what the true cause of that is that particular person has constructed a belief system to where they are capable of doing that. And so oftentimes when we're not able to achieve what we want to achieve, it's because we have not come to grips with who that person is and that we can be that person there. I think about, as I kind of put this together and thinking about examples, one that comes to mind because it seems like we're always talking about it is fitness and working out and different things like that. And how do we bring ourselves to do that? Obviously, there's a lot associated with, God, I don't really want to do that, or I haven't done that for a week or a month or whatever it may be. And I kind of think back on, to me, that is something that's very important. But it also comes very easy to me. So I kind of have an advantage there. And I think, thinking back on that, I think that advantage comes from my belief system of ever since I was 5 years old, I have been in athletics. And that belief system, while some, you may see after high school, they, stop working out and do their thing or whatever it may be, or after college. And I've always just constructed in my mind, and this may be right or wrong, but I've always constructed that I still today, even though I play 0 sports, that I am still an athlete. And an athlete would work out. And so I can almost do it without thinking. It becomes automatic because that's ingrained in who I am and who I want to be. And, I often joke, if you put me on a field, probably, I used to say college, it's more so high school now. And I realize I've lost a little bit, but there again, I can believe that all day long because I'm not going to have to go out there on a field and, in front of people and perform. So I use that belief system to make that particular behavior somewhat automatic. And we can think about that in our professional life too. We were talking about this yesterday in the sales meeting. An article that we read talked about visualizing and practice, and are you believing that you are the person that you want to be? And so one of the things that I thought of was, everyone always sees the on-stage performance of like a hypnotist, and they hypnotize somebody and they can get them to do anything that they want. And I've always been one to say, there is no way that he could hypnotize me. What is that, like, mad? There's no way. I would fight so hard to not be hypnotized. I don't want to look goofy. I would never do that. And so as I was reading, they talked about hypnosis and hypnotizing people, and I think they've done it with people that want to quit smoking, and there's all kinds of like real world examples. But they talk about hypnosis, and the reason that it is effective is because they take and there was a few examples in there, like they did a study where they told people that they were at the North Pole, and they took literally, when they were hypnotized, told them they were at the North Pole, and they would take their temperature, and their temperature would drop drastically, as if they were in a very cold environment, but yet they were just sitting there. They did the same thing when they would tell someone that like their pointer finger was like a hot poker in a fire, and their finger would blister. And they point out that the reason is because they truly believed that was the case. They created that image in their mind, or the hypnotist was able to create that image in their mind, that was indeed true. We've talked about Tony Robbins and his a couple times ago on the lies of success. Things that we don't know to necessarily be, concrete truth, but believing in them will probably get us a lot further than not believing in them. A couple of those were, everything happens for a reason. There is no such thing as failure. Well, we don't know if that's true, but if we believe that, our behaviors start to mimic those beliefs. And I think that's extremely important when we're looking at, okay, how do we achieve success? How do we achieve goals? And our beliefs are what we have. Too often times, I think people focus on what they don't have in a particular situation rather than what they have. So if you look at, well, there's a problem here, well, we don't have the resource, or I don't have the experience, or I've never done this before. Well, what have you done? What experience do you have? What could you use? And that pulls you into that positive mindset of believing that I can solve this. I can figure out this particular problem. And that takes practice. There are, I'd be lying to you if I said that, every time I'm positive about a particular situation. I'm not. I want to be, but it takes practice. It takes continually creating those images, continually working on that self-image of who we are and where we want to be. One of the most powerful things that I have ever been told is, or really not told, but told to use, is the power of visualization. And we've probably all been in a situation where they've talked about visualizing and seeing something before it actually happens. There again, belief and visualization are tied together very closely. What can we visualize happening? One of the things where visualization came up and where I kind of first learned it was playing football. Even in high school, the coaches would ask you to, the night before, visualize what you're going to do out there on the field and visualize being successful. And, at that young age, you were like, all right, man, whatever, sure thing. I'll get right on that. And then as you got a little older, they kept saying the same thing. And so you got to college and they're still saying the same thing. And by then you're, you think you know it all. So I guess I'll give it a shot. And so it probably wasn't until about my junior year when I actually started to do this. And it was amazing the difference in how well you played when you really took the time to visualize what was going to happen, how you were going to do things, because you implanted that in your brain. You knew that when a situation arose, this is how I would handle it. This is what I need to do. And so you had already had that practice. You had already went through that repetition of what was going to happen and how am I going to react. We talked about this as well in the sales meeting yesterday. Is a salesperson and dealing with objections from a customer. If you've already went through all the objections and figured out a way that you're going to address those, or maybe address them before they even come up, knowing that more than likely they're going to come up, how much better do you think you're going to be at that situation? Probably quite a bit. And the more and more you go over that, the more it gets ingrained in your being. That's who you become. You become that person that has the answer to any question the customer has. But it takes practice. And I think that's the step that most people aren't willing to undertake. It's like, well, I'll just deal with life as it comes. This will be great. Well, that's like going into battle without a plan. And our belief systems are our ultimate plan. That's how we get where we want to go. When you boil it down to your career focus, your goals that you set in life, we need to start acting today like the person that we want to be in the future. And let me unpack that a little bit because it took me a little while to understand that. And so what I mean by that is if you want to be in a particular place in your life, then you need to exhibit the behaviors that particular person would do. Acting as you are now and hoping and wishing that, one day I'll get there. That's hoping. Setting down and saying, well, if I want to be that person, here is what they do. Here is how they act. Here is how they treat people. Here is what that looks like. That is visualization in your own life. That is creating that image in your mind of who you're going to be, where you're going to be, and what you're going to be doing. I do this a ton. Growing as fast as we have, it's very easy to get kind of caught up in it. And I think that one of the reasons that I've enjoyed it so much is because I thought about where we're at right now 3 and 4 years ago. I didn't know what it would look like. I didn't know the people that would be on our team, but I visualized what it could look like. And it's amazing people talk about like deja vu and like, I feel like I've been here before. And you get that feeling when you visualize it enough. I think about, where we're going as a company and what we're going to do and some of the great things that we're going to do. I think about it. I literally wake up thinking about it. I go to sleep thinking about it. Now, I'm a little off center. I admit that. But this is what I love to do. This is what I was meant to do. And I believe that fully. And when you can take that, and I'm sure probably you guys have had an instance where you wanted to do something so bad that you thought about it all the time. You thought about what that would look like. I always there's no better feeling than you're thinking about something and it becomes so vivid that you get goosebumps on the back of your neck. Oh my gosh, I can see that. I am sitting there. Right now, my biggest thing is visualizing this new building, what it's going to look like, how people are going to move. I've already visualized, okay, pulling up to it, where will we go in? How will people interact? How will that affect people? Will people be okay over here if it's different than what it is now? All of these little things that seem like minute details make that picture in my mind so much clearer. And the thing is you can do the same for whatever it is that you want to do. What I have found is that it drastically helps as you move forward. It's almost like my wife and I always talk about, just putting good things out into the universe. Good things come back. And I look at creating these beliefs, creating that self-image as putting good things out there. Yeah, I want to be that person, and that person would do this, or that person wouldn't do this, and that's a behavior I have now, and I don't want to do that anymore. And so putting that stuff out there allows that belief in ourselves, because then we start believing that, hey, I can be that person. I can get there because I'm doing what they're doing. One of the things I was putting this kind of outline together this morning, and this thing came to me, and I may be right or wrong on this, but I kind of hearkened it to this. One of the things when it comes to creating that self-image is finding, it's termed in our society as role models. Who do I want to act like? Who do I want to be like? And I think that goes right into this belief system, this image. Everyone, growing up, you were your favorite basketball player out there hitting the last second shot, or, your favorite football player and throwing the touchdown. That was creating that self-image. Now, it may have only been for a brief second that you thought you were, Joe Montana or Peyton Manning or whoever it was. But think about if you truly believed that. I bet if you ask some of the quarterbacks in the NFL now, they grew up and they could tell you those exact same stories. However, they probably believed in it a lot more than maybe you did just throwing the ball around out back. And that's why they are where they are. And so the one thing that comes to my mind, especially as, my daughter's birthday comes up and she's 1, and I would say the biggest fear I've had about parenting is there's no guidebook, and it's very hard to remember your childhood and really analyze, what did so-and-so do? Did he say something to me? Did he make me do something that made me exhibit this behavior that I like and want my child to have? And I think what it comes down to is, so long as you're acting like the person you want to become, and that's a good person, a lot of parenting is just being that model, being that pillar that your kids can create that positive self-image around. And so one of the fears, like I said, that I've had is I want to do, there are some of my behaviors that I want my daughter to have. Well, how in the heck do I do that? So I've asked my mom and dad, how did you do that? Why do I do this? If you raised me, why do I do this certain thing? Their answer is usually, I don't know, and it's true. I mean, I have a feeling that, in 20, 30 years, when someone asks me, well, why does Blake do that? I have no idea. But what I do know is, so long as I am that image, that belief system for her, more than likely she's going to have a lot better chance of creating that positive self-image around herself. And I think we can take that back to ourselves, is who do we want to be, and who do we believe that we can be? I hear so often, probably never going to be that person. I can't do that. I've always been and that's one of the things that I have always had and don't know how to get it and want to pass it on, is I've always had this like belief in myself, even when people are like, well, you can't be that guy. That guy got lucky. He did this. I'm like, well, why can't you? You can. You just got to have the right belief system, which creates your behaviors, which creates who you're going to be. And I think the thing that I love about this industry, and I tell people this all the time, and when they ask, what makes you guys different? Why would I use you over somebody else? And I oftentimes kind of go back to the power of our mission is to, and as I tell everybody, my job is to make this the best place you've ever worked. And I think a part of that is allowing everybody to dream, allowing everybody to think, I want to take on that role one day. Perfect. Here's what you need to do. Here's the path you need to go along. And I think sometimes we find people who have stopped believing or never started. And that may relate back to when they were little. Maybe they never had a role model, or maybe everybody in their life said that you can't do that, or you're never going to be able to do that. Whatever it is, it's our job to break that. And the reason that we break that is because people that are dreaming and people that are believing in themselves are growing. And a growing company and growing people provide the best place to affect people's lives. My wife and I always talk about this, and she's finally starting to get it. But I think she was like, all right, yeah, that's a great model. But when I used to say our job is to affect people's lives, and she is always like, well, like you do heating and plumbing. Yeah, I get it. But while, replacing someone's furnace or fixing someone's water heater is not like life altering, at the end of the day, it's our job to affect the people that are here, and those people going out into the world are better people, are better role models for their kids, are better role models for everybody, frankly. They're better role models for our customers. People that truly believe in themselves, believe in getting better, are going to use that replacement of a furnace or replacing a heating element on a water heater. That's going to rub off. People can see that. It's very easy to see people who believe in themselves and have that positive self-image of, I can get there, I can do this. And as I said earlier, when we start acting like the person we want to be today, really great things can happen. We don't have to wait on it. It's not like, well, I'll be there in a couple years. Okay. Well, why not just start acting like that now? And that's not to say you need to be, egotistical or, have kind of like a superiority complex, but it's all right to say, I'm going to be that person. I'm going to be there one day. And I'm doing these things to get there. Because that's what people who are there are doing. There's a lot of guidebooks out there, a lot of role models. We just got to go find them. We got to go find those people that we want to be and imitate what they're doing. Ultimately, our brains are wired to seek goals. But sometimes we put negative goals out there. Well, I can't do that. Well, your brain's going to seek that you can't do that. So why would I look for anything that could help me possibly do that? We don't want to be wrong. We don't want to tell ourselves we can't do something and then do it. What's that famous saying? Whatever you tell yourself, you're right. Well, that comes back to who you think you are. I can't do that. I'll never be able to. Nope. You're right. You're not going to. No one has ever said, I can't do that, and then found themselves going, guess I did. No. The people that achieve things, the people that hit goals are the people that say, come hell or high water, I'm going to get there. And if you would plant that in your mind, are you going to hit walls? Are you going to hit speed bumps? Absolutely. But it's the people who say, just part of the process, just moving forward. It's an opportunity. It's not failure. We're moving in the right direction. Those are the people that keep moving. That's how you achieve your goals. Whatever we believe today, we are prescribing in the future. Think about it. If you believe today that I can do something, more than likely your brain is going to work towards that, even when you're not conscious of it, because your brain is seeking out things that will help you get to where you want to go. You said you are this person. Well, your brain is almost seeking out to validate that that is correct because you told it that is the case. Because it goes back to the first thing we talked about is imagination. People can take it from all different perspectives. You can look at yourself today and say, I'm either going to be this person or this person. Well, whatever you tell your brain to go, whichever direction, you're going to be right. And your brain is going to seek out the things that you tell it to do because you are on your way to being that person. Just refuse to live in a place where I'm telling myself I can't or this is holding me back. Just refuse. It's a choice you can make. That's the greatest thing about beliefs. We all choose to believe in what we want to believe in. Society will tell you, well, you got it. No. You don't have to. You don't have to do that. You can do whatever you want to do. Now, is it hard at first? Absolutely. But anything worth doing is going to be a little bit hard. Because your brain is going to seek out comfort. We have to understand that we are who we believe we are. It's very simple. We're not who someone tells us we are. We're not who society tells us we are. We are who we want to be and who we want to become. When we start thinking about who we want to become, then it becomes really powerful, because then growth is just crazy. I mean, you're going nuts, which is where you want to be. It's where I want to be. I love living there. It's awesome. Because ultimately, I look at my role and what I do is ultimately, how do I create the self-image of myself that ultimately helps others?